Evening all. Just thought I'd come on and give you another little video, and this one is going to be about nightclubs tonight. Ones that I've personally been to, have experienced them, and kind of the nights that have been with them. Some of the more sort of like commercial places as well. So what I'll do is I'll sort of start on the commercial places first. I first sort of started going to them round about 2000, and there was places like the Works. You'd have also Oceana, Evolution, and there were a couple of other little sort of commercial clubs in Bristol as well, like the Mandrake. Um, but yeah, those ones were sort of the ones like the starting blocks. So mainly sort of cheesy stuff, commercial ones, and kind of where you'd sort of go. If all of your friends who weren't into the sort of sort of dance music and that scene would go to, and you just go there for a bit of a laugh. You obviously try and pull as well if you wanted to, and basically have a bit of a drinking session, and that was kind of it. But no, the works was all right. Two sort of arenas, main sort of dance floor downstairs. And some stairs going up round the back, and it's like a smaller little room up top, and that was almost like a staple that we would go to if we were going out. And I wasn't going out to like a rave event or something. Evolution, we used to call it Fight Club, and basically you were sort of guaranteed a fight down there on a Friday or Saturday night. So we sort of tended to stay away from it, but it had some decent sort of nights going on down there. It's okay. You then went on to Oceana. Now this was a bit more of a kind of an upmarket-ish place, where all the sort of commercial music was all going on and that, and it was split over about 5 or 6 different rooms. Had a sort of decent vibe in there, but nothing to shout about or anything like that. So, and then of course you'd have Mandrake. That was okay. We'd call it basically go down and pull the pig type of thing, and that was something that most people just sort of wanted to do if they were just wanted to, have a bit of a laugh and fun, and try and pull a girl, but obviously a girl that wasn't particularly their cup of tea, shall we say. But the other main place, of course, that we used to go, which is up in Kingswood of Bristol, was good old Chasers. Chasers! And basically, you were guaranteed some sort of fight at some point of the night on a Friday or Saturday night. And it was one of them, if your face didn't fit, that was it. You're gone. Yeah, you get started on, and yeah, you can see the rest. Um, anyway, I'm going to move on to the sort of like the main sort of rave and nightclub, proper nightclubs that I used to go to. And of course, the first one I'm going to start with, which is where I had my first proper hard house night, which was the O2 Academy, which used to be called when I was first going rock, and then it changed to Carlin Academy originally. But yeah, the venue itself is a big venue. I think it holds something like 1,500 to 1,800 people inside it itself, of course, all over the two levels that they've got in there. But as soon as you go through the doors into the main sort of arena itself, it's big. It is a big, big place, and you've got a little balcony at the top. Of course, you've got some stairs on the sides. The main sort of like DJ stage and everything is in front. But they don't just do dance music; they do other events now because it's called the O2 Arena. And yeah, they can just one place that I always sort of loved to go to when they had the Scream night on, and they used to have nights called All Points West, and there was another one as well, but we only ever went to those like again. But for me as a starting block, it was a great venue to start with, and one I always remember. Was it being my first main one. You then had Creation, which some people might know as Club IQ. When I first went out there, when Slinky came to Bristol in 2001, that was one of my sort of, second sort of stomping grounds that I used to go to, which of course, when Slinky was in town, we'd sort of look at it, me and my mate Paul, and we go, right, well, which one are we going to pick now, for this weekend, or whether it's going to be next weekend or next month. And, for me to see Dumond, which is my favourite hard trance act, was just, that was absolutely amazing because I couldn't have asked for anything else apart from that to be in that venue. And it was a great little venue. I want to say little, it was kind of big, 1,500 people. But you kind of go in the side entrance, and it opened up then to the main sort of dance floor itself. You had stairs then going up around, yeah, the top as well, onto like a little mezzanine floor. Room two, which is always at the back, which of course had like house or drum and bass in there as a separate one. And of course, the main DJ booth was kind of in the middle. Now, I actually DJ'd on that DJ booth itself when I did a lap dancing night down there, which was interesting. Hardly anybody in the place, so I just thought bollocks to it. I'm just going to put out my music on there and had a bit of a laugh with it. Bar staff were dancing, which was great, so they were into the music. But no, it was always a venue that I always remember because it was just purely because of the slinky, plus with the DJs that played, plus that I managed to play on the same decks that the DJs played on. I was very, very privileged in that respect. Another one, of course, is Lakota, which is up in Stokes Croft. It's basically one of the oldest nightclubs within Bristol, and Lakota's been going for like 30 odd, plus years now. It's probably getting on for almost 40, actually, thinking about it. But yeah, that's always been a main staple for dance music, in Bristol pretty much since day dot, since the 80s. And I've been there, not too many times, but I've been there sometimes. I went there for a night called Back to the Future, which was a more of a local Bristol one. I played at a event called what did I play an event called Absolute Hardcore, and I was in room three, which is one of the smaller rooms upstairs. But it was almost like a little rabbit warren in there because you had like a staircase sort of going up the side. It was very, very hot and sweaty. The main, sort of like arena bit itself was quite small, but again, it had like a mezzanine floor on the top, and you couldn't like, fit a huge amount of people in there, but you could get, a fair number. But of course, room two was off to the side of that. You go up again, and of course, the room three where I played was, yeah, it was pretty cool. So it was an event, a venue that was very, very good. Personally, for me, I think it was in the wrong location because obviously where it's situated, but that doesn't matter. I managed to play for a big night, which I was very very grateful for from somebody called Regan Smith, DJ Regs, and he managed to get me the slot there. So that's pretty good. Another one that's always remembered is the Depot, which doesn't exist anymore. That's completely gone, which is in kind of eastern Lawrence Hill side of Bristol. And I played there for a night called Heaven and Hell. So basically, it's more sort of on the side of hard trance, hard style, gabber, techno, those sort of styles. But I played in that. That was the only event I ever played in um, the main arena for, in front of a fairly sort of decent crowd. I was first one on, and I started to play some more sort of trance going into hard trance. I didn't want to play anything sort of soft than that because obviously the event was based all around harder styles of music. So I thought, okay, that was fine. They had to sort of, it was quite funny. They had to burn the ends of the actual cartridge itself because for some reason when you put them in, it just weren't working. So the guy came over with a little lighter. There we go, job done. Whack them in, on you go. Fine, okay, that's all right. But it was always a place that I never really went to, but I was just grateful that I managed to win the competition to get onto it, and sort of it just went from there really. But again, it was a big venue because I'm pretty sure it was an old sort of fashioned like warehouse type of thing. So whether it was a manufacturing place or not, I'm not too sure. But it was definitely a big, open, wide arena from what I can remember. The building's still there, but it's now like a gym or more combat sort of type of place. But yeah, that was one very, very good one. That one. Um, in terms of others that have been in Bristol itself, um, the other ones, you've got things like McCluskey's that used to be around next to the Works, which was all right, half decent. You'd have a Panache, which of course took over from it, which is a bit more of a cliquey club, and that obviously got shut down because of drugs and all the rest of it. You had Level, which was up on Park Row, which is near the sort of uh, kind of Cliftony area of Bristol, and that got shut down because somebody got killed in there, unfortunately. Yeah, you had Kickers, which was up in Clifton. That was quite good, but it was never busy when we went in there. Um, I mean, there was others in sort of like the centre of town as well. You had Timbuktu, which we used to go to, and I actually used to go there for a night that one of my friends did, which is called Sick Duck. Now, of course, that's at the Arc Bar, which used to be called Lab as well, which is another street sort of just down from where Timbuktu is. And that one was quite cool because it had this sort of like this glass facade with these sort of like metal sort of wire things going crisscross all the way along them. And again, it was over about 3 or 4 different floors. Very sort of dark. I don't want to say dingy club, but it was very sort of yeah, sort of old. I want to say the inside of the building, and down on the bottom, which I did play in the Arc Bar with one of my friends, Alex Allen. We did a a little double set down there towards the end of the night, and that was pretty cool. That was very cool. In terms of Timbuktu, this one, of course, was another one that work did down there as well. We used to go down there when we were, in our teenage years. It was called Spaghetti Tree, and Spaghetti Tree basically used to be a restaurant. But then, of course, when it got to a certain time, it would then change into basically a bar stroke nightclub. But of course, me being 14, 15 or 16 at the time, you could obviously buy a pint with your meal, so that was fine. But of course, we'd stay in there and they'd keep serving us. Great, we can get pissed while we're young. So what? Good bit of fun. Um, so moving on to sort of further afield nightclubs now. Now there was one in Cardiff that me and my mate Paul went to, which is one called Evolution, and we did that for BPM over in Cardiff, so all hardcore there. And I can't really remember much about the club, but I remember going up to the bar and basically trying to order a pint. And because the music was so loud, the geezer couldn't understand what I was saying. Because, of course, I've got quite a thick accent, and us being over in Wales, he didn't kind of understand. So I had to sort of go point and say, right, that one, please. No, I mean, that was a decent night in all fairness. I think it was just outside the main sort of city centre of Cardiff, so it was more on a little thing called Atlantic Wharf, which I'm not too sure what that is, but I got a funny feeling it's down by the river side of things, maybe sort of verging on around there somewhere. But no, that was a decent one, decent night, decent club. Um, so we're going to go off to Swindon now, and basically I went down to the night, which was find it. Uproar, which is basically used to be done by DJ Seduction. I'm not too sure if it is, but of course DJ Seduction is a hardcore DJ, and as you can see from there, there's two sort of main arenas in there. We always stayed in the main room itself, and it was really cool because it was in the centre of Swindon itself. And of course, when you went up the sort of the stairs and everything, you come out into the main sort of arena, and straight in front of you is this revolving bar, which was really cool. Now, I don't know if the Bruno rooms are still there, whether it's still running as that name, or whether it's still a nightclub. But it was brilliant. You could basically just go on. It was a very slow moving thing, but you could just go round and hop off, and you're basically kind of on the dance floor or over on the other side of the room. And yeah, you could order your drinks, everything. It was just a cool little novelty thing that they had. But no, it was a really enjoyable night that was. I can't remember much about the size of the room, but I just remember it just being such a great night that the club itself, sort of made the atmosphere a lot better for that reason. And it was one that I went to, another handful of times, but it was lucky because I didn't drive, but my mate Paul did. So of course we used to go down there, park at the train station, flip across, go there, hop home, job done, type of thing. So it was great. We have got another one now, which is called Thekla, which of course is down on the main sort of waterfront in Bristol itself. And when I say the waterfront, it's actually not where what I would class as like Wetherspoons, Zaza Bazaars, which is like an all-you-can-eat restaurant. It's not down there. It's a bit further, sort of around the corner. It's basically done on a ship. That has obviously been, docked and everything. They've converted it all into a nightclub inside, and it's really cool. And of course, we went to this event here, Cream Classics one. So that's just on there for that night, and the the actual venue itself is really quirky because you've got kind of the top deck where you can obviously go out and just chill, smoke, whatever you want to do. And then, of course, you've then got, if you go up the sort of stairs on the outside, um, you can get up to the top, but also you can get up to the top from inside as well. And basically, that was where they were holding their smaller room with some of the, sort of like main sort of Bristolian DJs, shall we say, and a few others that were in there. And back downstairs into the main sort of arena itself, which is right on the lower level of the actual ship. You then come out into the main sort of dance floor space. It's not huge, but you can still hold, I reckon, 500 or 600 people in there. So it's fairly decent. And if you go up one level, go onto the mezzanine and obviously see straight over onto the dance floor, and obviously then you're seeing straight into the DJ booth. But it's really cool. The sound was great in there, and fully thoroughly enjoyed that night because Cream was always a good night anyway. And yeah, I'm just glad that I went to it because it was one that would have been, if I would have missed out on that, it would have been a disappointing experience not to have done. But yeah, I'm just very grateful and glad that I did. Now we have got the O2 down in Bournemouth, or AKA, as everybody knows it as, is the Opera House. Now, this one is what I class as a pretty amazing venue. Now, what it feels like when you go in there, because it used to be an old theatre or like an auditorium, and music in there when it's all going off, sounds just amazing. It's the way it's been shaped and everything, almost like a U shape that comes round, and the sound is deflected off everywhere. It just sounds, just perfect. And of course, you've got your main sort of when you come in, you've got your main sort of dance floor itself, or the front DJ booth, of course, right at the end, and then you've got the top mezzanine floor, of course, where you can see over and watch everything. But in terms of a venue, I'm glad that I went there because Slinky was originally started there in '97, and I went there for a tidy event, and I think I went there again for another, not too sure, but I definitely did go there for that particular event itself down in Bournemouth. But yeah, I'm so glad that I did because of it being associated with Slinky as well. And for me, that's important because of what I've known with Bristol with being Slinky. So I managed to get to both venues. So that was pretty goddamn amazing. Next one I'm going to talk about is the Sanctuary down in Milton Keynes. So, just going to get this open if I can. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get it all out, but you can sort of kind of see from that. Basically, the Sanctuary, you can see just on that image there, a little bit, there we go. Yeah, you can see on that image there, and probably on that image there, it was one of the biggest venues at the time in the UK down in Milton Keynes, and it was just great. You go in through that main entrance, and it would lead off to like 3 or 4 different sort of arenas within the venue itself. I can't really remember much about the arenas, but I remember going down there for a Hardcore Heaven event and some slamming vinyl events as well. And I must have went there at least 4 times, 5 at a push. But the sound and everything was just amazing. You get everybody sort of cramming in, and I just remember the nights being just brilliant. And you could obviously there was room to dance, but it wasn't like as if you were hemmed in unless you were like right in front of the DJ booth. But it was really, really cool, and I'm so glad that I did because of course that went in the mid 2000s, I think it was, and got replaced by IKEA. IKEA. But anyway, that was a very, very good one. I managed to get to, of course, and through my mate Paul Worth, we managed to get down there quite a fair few times. The next one that I am going to talk about, let's start to pop these over here, is this one, which is, as you can see, the Emporium up in Colville, which is up in Leicestershire. So, the reason why we wanted to go to this one, and this is more to do with my mate Lee Cocking, is basically we wanted to go to that event Storm and the association with the Emporium nightclub. Emporium nightclub has been going for pretty much, a good fair few amount of years now. I'm talking like 20, 25 plus years, give or take, in around that sort of area, maybe longer. Um, but we wanted to go there to basically to go and see what the Storm event was like. Now, pretty sure that I've been to two, maybe three Storm events at the Emporium, but it's a really, really cool venue. You basically go in through the main doors itself, literally, then you kick left, you're onto the main arena itself. And what you can then do is you can go up the stairs up onto the sort of like the mezzanine floor. They got a bar up there as well. We got a bar obviously downstairs to the as you come back down on the right hand side of the main arena. And then of course if you go onto the main mezzanine floor, you can kick straight off, and that basically kick straight off. You can walk straight ahead, and then you can go up some stairs and around. That'll take you out to the main sort of smoking area and whatever area is sort of happening up there. But it's really really cool. The sound was pretty amazing. You can just sort of have a chin wag with people. It was never like really really sort of crammed, but there was enough room for you to move around, so you didn't have a problem bashing into people. But no, I can remember going there, and the storm nights that we had out there were brilliant, and I'll never forget them. Because one night I actually ended up getting back in a taxi without my mate Lee, getting back to the travel lodge or wherever it was that we were staying, because I was that sort of shit faced, and I was just like, I just need to go to sleep. And of course, I left him. And he's thinking, where the hell is he gone? And of course, he comes back, and then he's like, open up the door, open it. Yeah, all right, sorry, man. Anyway, the next one I'll do is what is classed as now as Coco, but has always been known for donkey's years as Camden Palace. Again, this one is very similar to the Opera House down in Bournemouth. It is another old-fashioned theatre auditorium. Basically, it is the actual place. From how I want to describe it is great and sort of almost compact, but not, and I'll try and explain why. So basically, you come in through the main doors, you go up and up through, but it's sort of quite like a narrow-ish sort of walk up to it itself. And then, of course, all of a sudden, when you're out, you're up on the sort of like the main sort of upper levels of the auditorium, so you can see down where the main sort of dance floor is and the stage. DJ booth and everything at the back, but you can move down different levels and eventually get down to the bottom level, where you can then start to get involved in everything. But of course, there's like two or three ways that you can go in and go out. So it's really sort of, like I say, compact to that sort of extent. But when you're on the floor, dance floor itself is great. There was no sort of like, what I would say is like really sort of hemmed in, but it was quite busy when we went down because Frantic has been like a long-term event ever since the late 90s. But you could also go, of course, out in little areas where you could sort of chill out and go and get some fresh air. You can go down to the bottom bar as well, and of course you'd have obviously seating, and you'd have like little stools and that where you could just sit down. But the place was great, and I'm glad that I've been to that one because it's a very well known nightclub that's in London itself. And this one, I managed to actually stay up past 6 o'clock in the morning. I actually managed to stay through 24 hours from waking up the previous morning and going to work. And I was dead on my ass, but I almost fell asleep in the nightclub. I was that tired, and of course, because we couldn't then get onto the underground until like 8 o'clock in the morning, we were just waiting outside and thinking, "Come on, we just want to get out." Anyway, that's a great one that I've been to, and I'm so glad that I made that one. In all fairness, the other one I missed out actually from Bristol was the old fire station. Now this used to be called Cafe Blue, and we used to do some of the Scream events down there. But because it was an old, fire fire engine house, or whatever firehouse, whatever you want to call them, basically it was a really really big but tall venue as well. So you had a lot of obviously headroom, the rest of it. It didn't feel really big, but when you're in there, you kind of felt big because of how tall it was as well. But of course, because you had the outside bit where they'd obviously do all their original fire training, you could go out there, chill out and whatever, and then come back straight in, and it was straight on. But no, that was a really cool nightclub to be in because Scream sort of bounced between the Carlin and there. And I think we went to some Back to the Future events in there as well. Delirium, it's one or the other. And yeah, it was really, really great, that one. This one, God's Kitchen, or other words, O2 Institute. I've got a funny feeling this used to be called the Sanctuary up in Birmingham, I believe. Now, it's a very sort of old-fashioned building up in Birmingham, which is in Digbeth, I believe. And I can't remember masses about it, but I just remember going into this room 2, and basically they were obviously having a polysexual event out there, which is the Hard House used to do in Birmingham. And for me, it was really, really cool because it wasn't a huge arena, but you had enough room to move about. And if you wanted to dance, you could. But if you wanted to go and chill out on the seats, it was fine. The sound was really good. It was a bit probably too loud, the sound for that room, but it still worked. And it was, it was a good night, very good night. I went into the main sort of hall in there as well, which again is almost like an old theatre ish type of place, but not really because you got the upstairs seating, whereas where I sort of was when I came in from that arena, from the other arena. But you'd also obviously have the main downstairs as well. It's the main one, but it didn't feel huge until you got past that sort of bit where the sort of chairs and everything were, and then it would go straight up. And it just felt huge at that point. But we stayed in the other arena because that was where we wanted to be for that, being the hard house side of things. But no, I'm glad that I went to that one because that was a decent venue. Sound system was good on it, and yeah, I'm just glad I've ticked that one off my list. In all fairness, so we have here the Mill in Birmingham, or some people might know it as the Rainbow Warehouse, which of course I went to a slamming vinyl event or hardcore event, one or the other. That I did going back in the 2000s. But this one is basically it's kind of an old like smallish factory type of place, but not one that's got chimneys on. It's kind of hard to describe because it's basically next door to one of the railway bridges. Basically, when we went in there, it was kind of like a biggish sort of main dance floor. You literally go straight in, you're on the dance floor kind of straight away, with the DJ booth on the left hand side. And you'd have another small room off into the left hand corner, which when we went to the Slamming Vinyl event up there, Slamming Vinyl might have been or whatever it was, you'd have the hard house room just on the side, and then you have another room just sort of on the right hand side here somewhere. What they used to do is convert the actual railway arch into a little arena as well, which is quite cool. No, that one was a really, really good one. And then when we went to the Mill, they'd actually updated it, rechanged the venues ever so slightly. So the rooms were in different positions. You'd have like a terrace at the top, which was really, really cool. So it gave you more space to sort of breathe, chill out, and all the rest of it. But no, I'm glad I went to that one because that is very good. And it's actually just up from Air, which is one of the big main venues, or was main venues in Birmingham. Used to be called Code, and then of course that changed to I think it's like a beer garden or something now, which is up there. But yeah, no, it was a really, really good one, that one. This one, Fusion in Magaluf, that was a very interesting nightclub because it was basically you'd go in through the main entrance all the way down, and it felt like you were in some sort of coliseum. It's the best way I can describe it. But it was really great. You go in, and then you'd have like some seats and everything to the left. Go down again, you then have the main dance floor, and with these pillars in there as well. And then of course, then you kick off to the right, and there was some more sort of like I think there was another room or something in there as well. But no, that was a very interesting venue. Cool, very cool. But yeah, one that I'm glad I did actually because that was pretty amazing. Um, Next one I'm going to talk about is Tall Trees, which is in Newquay. Of course, we know basically Newquay is kind of the Ibiza of England, I suppose, maybe. But no, I'm glad I went to this one actually because it was a decent venue. In all fairness, we used to go there for these Rebirth events, which was the hardcore events that me and Paul used to go to back in the 2000s. And yeah, it was quite an interesting place. I can't really remember much about it, but I just remember it had these, like, tall trees name outside with sort of palm trees coming out of the light sign outside, and then you'd go in, and it was almost like as if it was like this sort of walkway almost that was designed sort of around the actual outside of the main dance floor itself, but with little things where you could obviously go onto the dance floor. And I could be completely wrong, but that's just how I kind of remember it being. And I remember there was almost like a little step up onto another point as well, and then step back down. But no, it was a really really nice little venue. When I say little, it wasn't little; it was obviously quite a big venue. But yeah, that was a good one that we went to in terms of the night that we had down there. So, where am I going to go from here? I've done that one, done that one, done that one. Don't think, in all fairness, there is any others. Apart from, I know what I have missed. Yeah, that was a big one. Is the Q Club up in Birmingham? Yes. Now, of course, Q Club, which this one is a massive theatre. And it was really great because it was used as, I think, some sort of like coroner courts or of that nature before it was kind of converted into a nightclub, should we say? And the amount of different rooms that you had in there. I mean, I just remember the main sort of arena being itself, and of course, again, a U-shaped as it was, and you'd have a load of like seating on theirs, which obviously was upstairs. Then you'd have the main dance floor itself. So in the main dance floor, when they did Slam and Vinyl event up there, was drum and bass. But of course, me and Paul were in the hardcore Heaven Arena, I think. No, sorry, in the Slam and Vinyl arena with hardcore, and that was more, I think, up a level, I believe, around the actual site itself. But that was quite a decent sized room for what it was in terms of the hardcore one that we were in. And I just remember it being, really good. We both enjoyed it, and there was more than enough room to sort of, dance and everything. But I just remember this guy coming up to us, and he was, offering me drugs, and I just literally just went like looked away and just kept silent. Not interested in doing drugs. But of course, he pestered me for like 5 or 10 minutes. Do you want some? And he wasn't getting the gist of go. I'm not interested. Anyway, he left eventually. Obviously, he was trying to sell pills, wherever it was. But it didn't sort of detract from the night because it was one of them of it was good to have the experience in that particular venue for what it was. But like I say, there were other little rooms around there as well because they had also an old school arena, which was your Arena 3. And of course, Arena 4 was like your chill out space and entertainment zone. So, yeah, it was all a very, very good one. But that one there, the Q Club, is like a very recognised and well respected nightclub within Birmingham, from what I can tell and what I've heard with some of the nights that they've had, certainly down there and everything. One of the other ones, of course, is Good Old Motion. So, Good Old Motion. Of course, that's one of the events that I went to, which is Bionic. I went to Fantasia down there as well. Um, and there might have been maybe a hardcore event that I went to down there as well. But to put it into perspective, basically, Motion is and was, because of what's going on at the minute with Motion, one of the most respected nightclubs within the world. Not Bristol, not England, the world. And it rated within their whatever top, whether it was top 20, 30, or whatever. So to have that sort of privilege is pretty goddamn good. But I must have went to at least 6 or 7 different events over that period when Motion was over. I never really knew Motion existed because it was so far out of the way, being behind Temple Meads train station. But the venue was pretty good. You sort of go in through the main entrance itself. You come into this sort of area that's sort of smaller to start with, and you've got a main sort of like not main dance floor, but it's kind of like the DJs in front of you. You then got a little bit of a dance floor. You can go around the outside, then you come round to the other side, and it's almost like a little dead space where people are moving around and everything. And directly in front of you on the right is you've got like this little place called the tunnel, and that's obviously where all the sort of like the smaller whether that's like an old school arena or whether it's a hardcore, hard house, whatever, they put that in there. Go around to the right and you come into the main arena itself. Of course, when you go in there on your right hand side of the DJ booth, sort of like in the middle, the main dance floor itself, and you need some stairs up to the left onto the balcony to look out. It was really, really cool because we managed to try and get those passes where we could get in there and then be able to, basically have a decent night rather than having to be like this with everybody else in there. So that was really, really cool that you can go up on the balcony. But then, of course, the balcony kicks back round into a little sort of chill out area, which was nice. But on the dance floor as well, when you come down the steps from the upstairs, you go all the way over the other side to the left, and through there is basically then your like room two. So it's the second sort of largest space in there. And I remember being in there in the Fantasia night, and we were in the jungle bit. It was really cool. Everybody was just off their face, having fun, and all the rest of it. But we really enjoyed it, me and Lee. That was really, really. But the sound system was great. I always had to wear earplugs when I went down there because it was a case of my ear at that point was just getting to a point of I need to start to protect. But no, in all fairness, it's a great venue and it's one that will be sadly missed. But hopefully, they are looking to try and move somewhere else. Where I really don't know, but fingers crossed they'll have a new venue at some point, and things will be looking up and very, very good. I mean, the only other one that I will sort of mention is going to be the tenders done at the Tidy tenders. Now, these have kind of been mainly at Pontins in Prestatyn and Southport, and they did them at Cambersands as well. I've been to about four, I think now. Two of them I've helped at, but it's really cool to have them in a holiday park because it gives you a different perspective completely. Now, I can't really sort of say how it's all laid out because it's laid out completely differently. You'd be going through the arcades at one point, then you'd be going into the main arena. You could be going into a small room, but then again, you can go around the outside past like your mini golf or pitch and putt or whatever, and then you're into another like little hut room where somebody's just set up a DJ set, and that's what they want to play and do. But it's really cool because it was really kind of quirky and a good idea that they were doing that. Unfortunately, Pontins has obviously gone to shit. In all fairness, when we were staying there, the rooms were bloody awful, you know. But it was literally just to stay, to put your head down. You were there for the music, not for anything else. And once you were gone, that was it. Didn't matter. You just had a bit of fun with those nights and everything. It was just great. Anyway, that's been my sort of 20 plus year sort of experience going through being able to go to these venues and actually enjoying them, and just having this sense of wow, I've been to them. Not many of them exist anymore. So for me, that's very, very good that I've managed to grow up in a time where the nightclubs were basically, in boom time, shall we say, from coming out where the old warehouse scene was. And of course, if the warehouse scene hadn't done what it had done, nightclubs probably wouldn't have got as big as they were. It's purely because the old rave scene, the Criminal Justice Act came in and they basically shut them all down from doing all the illegal ones in the warehouses, and then it just took it onto a new level into nightclubs. So yeah, I'm very privileged and grateful that I managed to get to a lot of clubs that kind of don't exist anymore, or whether some of them have just changed names or hands or whatever. So yeah, I hope that's been of some sort of help, experience, or sort of knowledge that might people may well be able to use. But yeah, no, that's a real good one that I think is if you can get to a nightclub regardless of what music style it is, rock, dance, pop, whatever, do it because it's good to experience and get out there. And hopefully one day they might do a nice little book on nightclubs throughout the UK and, not necessarily abroad, but mainly the UK. Anyway, hope that's been of some, you know, some sort of help wherever it may be, whoever's going to watch this and all the rest of it. And, yeah, I shall say thank you very much, and no doubt I shall be on with another video at some point soon. See you later.